Let's go with healthcare. Start with Moderna. Now, again, I've been very concerned with Moderna for the last little bit of time. It really looks like path of least resistance is continued a downward spiral. If we cannot hold 11 low, then as much, man, that's a far drop, man. That's a really far drop down to, excuse me. That's a very, very far drop down to the 102. And I don't want to say that we're going to go all the way down to 102, but it's not looking very promising for Moderna. But we got to also take in consideration, like, where did we a year ago? Right now we're at 112, so and we've already dropped the 50% of that. So I would say pre 195 to even 168. Now, if we can't hold that 195, then we might drop to 168 relatively fast. Now, obviously, we would have a bounce, but then the bounce is going to drag us right down. And I'm talking more or less like a bounce here, and then we just ripped lower, right? That's more or less what I'm saying, is if we hit the 195, we might come back up and then quickly hit the 168. Oh, no. I would not be a buyer of Moderna until it can kind of get ready, because it looks terrible, honestly. Like, we already broke below the December, when was this? The November low. I mean, we're above it at the moment right here, but let me just put the line out there so you understand what I'm talking about. See how we're hovering the line. If you wanted to be super adventurous, then yeah, buy here with the teal line being your stop. I don't want to be that adventurous, so I'd stay away, because we have the volumes kind of sucking all the way up. If I was maybe one of you guys can do this. Look at this insider selling of the shares, because I wouldn't be surprised, because I said this at the beginning of last year. I wouldn't be surprised if a lot of the main upper executives sold out a lot up here, and then they're probably sold again right here. But I wouldn't be a buyer here until it really kind of proves to me that it wants to do something positive. However, again, like I said, if you're an aggressive buyer, this would be a perfect spot for you, because you have yourself an out anything below this teal line. Pfizer, I really don't see too much of any problem with Pfizer. Again, what I've been saying over the last couple of weeks is, as long as they're in the good graces, then yay. But the second that the good graces of the American public doesn't want to listen to these new drugs and everything that are coming out, because every week they're coming out with some new pill or something for COVID, or getting a new approval for teenagers and babies and everything else. But just be very, very careful, because that's great all through up here, but the more people hear it, the less exciting it is to people. Like, it loses its oomph. Now, again, I'd be a buyer here, but be a very skeptical buyer. I'd be a much more positive buyer above the 50%. I'd like to see what happens right here. Can we break the 55.92, or do we get rejected? And I mean actually break and hold. Ooh, I like Merck right here. We closing our gap, like we were talking about last week. We're almost at our gap target, which would be 81. We are at a short time target right here. I would be a buyer with a well-known get out of below this 50% line of 78.66. But I'd be a buyer all the way up until we close the gap. Now, closing the gap, I'd be a little bit concerned. But don't forget, we also have that next lovely gap, which is what brings us from, give or take, 84 to 91. So just keep that in mind, or 89.38, excuse me. So I would be a buyer of Merck. Skeptical buyer, but buyer nonetheless. Now, this was my concern with United Health. Beautiful high. Now I thought we'd come down to the lowest of 466, although I was wrong. We went down to 480, 458. At this point, I would be a buyer. I'd be a buyer with a very short term get out at anything below this. Anything below the 456, I'd get out. Again, I didn't think we'd go below the 460 or the 456. I thought, I saw it's going to 95. I saw it's going to maybe 78. And worst case scenario, I was thinking we go back to 66, but I was wrong. We went below even a little bit further and went to 56. But at this point, I would be a buyer, skeptical, just kind of going on with the market because the market is now flat. So we've given up all the gains that we had this morning and we just went negative. AstraZeneca is looking pretty decent. It is looking pretty decent. I could see if the momentum keeps going, but look where we are. We're right at a teal line that we ourselves drew. So be very, very cautious on that. But if we can start taking numbers if we take this out, then I will see us breaking above the basically 1230 high, which was give or take 58.88. And if we can do that, I could see us going up to close this gap relatively fast up to 59.26. And if we can continue to kind of bullshing up, eventually we would probably get up to 62.77. Now, like I said, I am a buyer, but be very careful. We first kind of want to take out our own drawing, because if not, next target would be 55.75. ABBV looking phenomenal. Again, tighten your stops. We did hit target, which was 38.15 or 38.09. We hit target, broke it a little bit, and then came back down. So again, I'd be very, very skeptical. Do I see anything wrong with ABBV in the next week or couple weeks? No. But for the short term, I'd be very skeptical. If you're super aggressive, I would buy here, because I know at the 133.28 would be the mark where I skedaddle and run until we probably get down to 129, and that would, at that point, I'd probably be a buyer. BMY, that's looking pretty good, man. It has had a massive reversal from November 30th, where we hit our target down here, and since that time we have literally gone up, although for about 2.5 weeks we had some stumble. If we can get above this 63 with a decent amount of volume, this could pop and pop hard, so keep that in mind. Gilead's looking good. No, wow, never mind. Gilead is looking all right. I don't like the way we've just basically lost 5 straight days in a row and looking to go down to the 70.41. But if we can maintain if we don't drop any further than this bar right here, which would be the 70.83, then this could be our low and start buying higher. The only concern is, as long as it does not breach this low of 70.66, then I'm technically still a buyer. Johnson & Johnson looking amazing, looking great. Has everything to do with the market. If the market can't draw this down, then target would be 176 or 178. But I do like this movement. We did break out. Is it a breakout fake out, or is it a breakout for real? We will find out in about 3 hours. Yeah, about 3 hours. 3 hours and 30 minutes, rather. Sarepta Pharmaceuticals. Not my favorite. I was loving it Friday at 92, but I'm not quite as much loving it at 85. So just keep that in mind. Keep your stops tight. And a lot of these, we might need to just wait till after earnings come out and then readjust our positions.